So far this spring, we have had some really nice, warm, sunny days, but this week it's been a little bit more rainy and colder. So I'm spending more time in the kitchen. This is that time of year when things are starting to get busy on the farm, but in this phase right now, we still don't have a whole lot going on. But in the weeks to come, we are going to have so many things happening on the farm, and my daily chore load is going to be getting bigger. So with the weather this week, I decided this would be a good time to spend a little bit more time inside and just kind of preparing for the season ahead. The very first thing that I'm getting to in the kitchen this week is getting some dough going for some bread and then also for burger buns. It seems like if I don't start the week off right away just getting bread going, then we go the whole week and we just don't have bread. And having bread makes meals go a lot easier because you can throw together quick meals like a sandwich or in this case some burgers. I also decided to do a double batch of these burger buns because I'm going to try to bake them and then slice them and keep them in the freezer for quick meals down the road. For me, burgers is one of those meals that is such an easy meal. You can have some ground beef just thawed and quickly throw it together. But if you don't have buns, it doesn't work so well. And I don't always have the bread ready. I don't always have buns on hand. So I'm going to give that a try and see how it works, because in this season of spring and so much going on the farm, a lot of times dinners aren't really well thought out and they just need to be quick and easy.
With Mother's Day right around the corner, I'm excited to share with you guys the sponsor of this week's video, and that is Everblog. Everblog is the world's first digital fridge calendar. This digital fridge calendar attaches right to your fridge for a clean and modern look. I have the Everblog 13.4-inch fridge calendar, and I love the aesthetic look that it adds to my kitchen while also simplifying my life. I think this could be the perfect gift for Mother's Day because, as we all know, moms juggle so many tasks throughout the day, so being able to simplify meal planning, grocery shopping would go a long way to making things a lot easier. It is more than just a calendar. It has a built-in smart fridge manager. Some of these features include being able to easily track ingredients, receive expiration reminders, and keep a running grocery list. This helps reduce food waste, save money, and to keep all of your meals fresh. My favorite part is how easy it is to do weekly meal planning. I can easily track all the ingredients I have on hand, pull up my favorite recipes, and even generate meal ideas. This eliminates the last-minute stress on what to cook for dinner. It also has features like member color coding, chore charts and reward systems, custom task, weather, and more. When I'm not using the calendar, I like to have it set to screensaver mode so that way I can display pictures right on my refrigerator all the time. Everblog fridge calendars are the perfect Mother's Day gift that I think every mom will love. If you want to purchase this calendar for a gift or just for yourself, you can use the link in my description to get this Everblog fridge calendar in time for this Mother's Day. Thanks so much to Everblog for sponsoring this week's video.
Last week, we had a really busy week here on the farm, and I shared all of that in last week's video. We had some inventory to restock on. Our first farmers market was coming up. So there was just a lot going on the farm last week, but then this week it's a slower week and there's not as much happening. And that happens a lot on the farm. It just kind of depends on the exact season you're in and where all the animals are and what's going on. Next week, we have another really busy week coming up. But for now, I'm just enjoying this little bit of a slower pace during this busier season. I think it's really important to prioritize eating healthy and cooking from scratch, but I don't think that has to be hard. And I think sometimes with just some planning and prep work, that can go a really long way towards having a goal of cooking from scratch meal every night. For me, I found that batch making stuff and prepping dinner when I get a chance throughout the day helps make that evening go so much smoother, especially this time of year when the daylight hours are longer and we seem to be outside longer. Having some good staple ingredients on hand, some breads made up in the freezer will go a long way to making those late nights a lot simpler. Pulling meat out of the deep freezer at the beginning of the week is also another habit that I try to get into. That just makes meals go so much smoother by having some thawed meat to work off of in the refrigerator. As I plan recipes and meals for this week, I am so looking forward to having these fresh herbs right outside my kitchen to pull from and add to different recipes throughout the summer months. I'm also just so ready for our garden to be in full bloom and have so many fresh vegetables coming in. I find that having things on hand like that makes meals so much easier because I can just say, here's what I need to use up, and then create a meal around that. I am using my nap time today to prep some dinner for this evening. I decided to make a creamy sausage bake. So the reason I wanted to make this is because I actually had a block of cream cheese in the refrigerator that I needed to use up. I still have some canned tomato sauce from our tomatoes from the garden last summer and some diced tomatoes in the freezer. So naturally, I don't want anything to go to waste, but I'm also trying to work through all of our freezer vegetables from last year. That way I can start focusing on growing new crops and preserving vegetables for this year. I like to try to work through everything in my freezer, and I try not to carry things over for more than a year. I do the same thing with the meat in our freezer. So you guys saw inside my deep freezer, I'm not super organized, but I do know what's in there, and I try to keep tabs on what we have a lot of and need to work through, and then things that we need to spare, because we stock our freezer pretty much at the beginning of the year. So this year we put in 2 whole hogs, a side of beef, and we go through a lot of chicken as well. And honestly, I'm always shocked by how much meat our little family goes through, but we really do work through all of that in a year, and we also pull in random cuts from our inventory freezer quite often. So if we see a steak come through with some messed up packaging or it's not cut just right for resale, we eat a lot of that as well. But the reason we go through so much is because we really do eat every meal from home, and all of our meals are focused on meat as the main portion and then vegetables and such as the sides. In this season, when we are outside so much later into the evening, I try to do meals like this that I can almost prep entirely ahead of time and then put in the oven as we're in and out throughout the evening. That way, when we come in at dark, our dinner is ready. What I also love about prepping meals ahead of time like this is I can do all the dishes as well. So then the evening just goes so much smoother. So those are the types of meals that I really fall back on, ones that I can prep and then bake later on. I also do a lot of just fresh cuts like pork chops, steaks, chicken wings, things like that I can throw on the smoker and then have some chopped vegetables roasting in the oven. So in this season, I'm coming up with a new rotation of meals that works well with our busy evening schedules. So all of the chickens have started laying pretty consistently, and we have piles of eggs in our garage refrigerator. This morning, I'm going through and washing all of the eggs and making sure they're all still fresh. My daughter has sort of taken over the whole egg situation. She loves to go out to the coop and collect them, put them in the cartons, and store them away in the fridge. I have let her pretty well handle that task, but she's only 3 years old, so rotating the eggs and making sure they're all staying fresh hasn't really been happening. So this morning, I decided to pull them all out of the fridge and do the float test. So when you wash eggs, if they stand up on edge, that's when you know they're starting to become not as fresh. And if they still sink to the bottom of the water, they're still plenty fresh. So in preparation for the farmer's market this weekend, I'm going through and washing all the eggs, and then any of them that stood up on edge I know need to be used up fairly quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and make a big batch of deviled eggs for us to snack on. A sure sign of spring is the abundance of eggs and the bright yellow yolks. So our chickens pretty much free range every day. I bring them up into their coop at night, and then in the morning I let them out, and they're pretty much exploring down through the woods and through the pastures. I notice they eat much less feed this time of year because they're getting most of their nutrients out on the pastures, and as a result, the egg yolks are so bright yellow. So many people at the farmer's market comment how they can truly taste the difference and see the difference in the eggs in the springtime compared to winter eggs or store-bought eggs. And I just love this time of year, and I love using eggs in so many different recipes and baking. Not only are they nutrient dense, but I just think the bright yellow is so pretty. Throwing together this batch of deviled eggs this morning made me think why I don't do this more often in the springtime. It was an easy thing to throw together, a great way to use an abundance of eggs, and we also really enjoyed having them in the refrigerator to snack on throughout the day. I'm finally getting back to my burger buns. I let them do a long ferment in the refrigerator, actually for a few days, just because I hadn't had a chance to get back to them. And now I'm just getting them out and shaping them and letting them do that final rise on the counter. I was only going to leave them out for a couple hours, but we actually ended up going to the park because we had a nice sunny day, first one in a while. So we spent most of the day at the park, but it worked out really well because when I got home, they are ready to top with the egg wash and bake. I think they needed that extra time to really rise because they were in the refrigerator for so long. And I also found that when using fresh milled flour, the rise time does also take a little bit longer. But these buns turned out so good and they were so nice to have with burgers that evening. I'm also excited to see how they work pulling them out of the freezer. The goal is to be able to just toast them and quickly serve burgers on any night because burgers is truly a simple, easy meal. It's just I don't always have the buns on hand. So we'll see how this method works out. My favorite thing about cooking from scratch is sourcing all of the ingredients. So we have beef from our own farm. A lot of times vegetables I either source at the farmer's market or when it's summertime from our garden. I love being able to make my breads from scratch and just really focusing on wholesome ingredients in my cooking. I find enjoyment in that, and I think it's just a fun way to cook and to eat healthy. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and seeing what's going on in my kitchen in the springtime. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to sharing more with you guys next week.